really fascinated by, I've been to a few unconferences, but, that composition of your guests is so important for the kind of conversations that happen, right? And bringing those different people together, from the scientists, investors, shamans, medicine women, all into the one place to talk about this. Innovative ideas and solutions come from that. And I know you've mentioned the Conscious Investor Club, which you shared with me, was in part inspired by one of the panels that you had at that unconference with a range of investors. I'm interested to dig into that a little bit more, given SuperGreen Live and the context we're talking in today. I agree with you. I'm seeing more people who are interested in investing from the perspective of impact first, as opposed to profit first. What has been your experience? And what's kind of led you to think about grouping people together into a Conscious Investor Club? What's the thinking behind that? For years, people have been talking about a need for a shift from what I said before, the single bottom line of profitability, to the triple bottom line. I read a book and was impressed with the work of the Swedish scientist Johan Rockström, who's behind the planetary boundaries theory. In his book called Earth for All, he made the point that a holistic approach is more effective for us in the short term, but also in the long term. I think the current mindset of investors might be short-term profitability, quarterly returns, things like that. But we're shooting ourselves in the foot here if we make a lot of money only to destroy the planet, right? That's like playing online poker while your home is burning down, and not a very smart thing to do. So Johan made the point, after looking back at 50 years of science and data, and then using current ability to use computer modeling to find out what are the solutions. And it turns out that the best way to solve planetary challenges are also the best way to empower women, best way to turn the economic playing field and make it more level instead of being unleveled by design. So there was that real need placed in my head from other thought leaders who were already doing this work, that we needed to get into this field as well and expand that mindset and expand people who are interested in doing that with us. I would certainly, I think one of the things that we've seen at Lend for Good, and one of the things behind, our kind of theory as to, why crowdfunding and, SuperGreen Live and the Super Crowd, et cetera, is all aligned with that, is that I think we're social beings, right? Like, people act together and do things together. And so I think, the idea of coming together as clubs, coming together as collectives to do things together is very attractive. And so, I think the idea you've got there of kind of connecting people up to look at things holistically and to look at things in a social process is really important. Nicole, I know you've kind of tapped into crowdfunding as part of your journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And, and I guess what your observation is of the kind of personas and personalities of these people that are investing in the climate solutions that you're offering?
Yeah. So we came to crowdfunding as an alternative to working with traditional lenders. Something just doesn't seem and sit well with me with wanting to profit share with the Bank of Americas when they're the ones bankrolling the climate crisis. I much rather profit share with mission-driven investors. And with that in mind, the concept of crowdfunding is also democratizing green investment. You don't have to be an accredited investor. It really lowers the playing field so that anybody that wants to do something and wants to invest in the future they want to see can. And it was very much an experiment. There hasn't been a lot of paved pathways to follow of how to use crowdfunding in your startup, or at least from my perspective. So when we launched our first raise in 2024, I didn't know what to expect, but I was not expecting that we would have 39 investors from 19 different states, including Washington, D.C. I thought that it would have been much more of a regional or local type of investment, but the 19 different states really was the shock factor for me. Is that the platform that we raised on was called Raise Green. They have since been acquired by Honeycomb Credit. Mm-hmm. And the multiplier the factor of multiplication by using a platform that is with mission-driven investors is what I attribute how we got so many investors from across the country. And what's wild about that is that now it's a team of investors that are also supporters responding to quarterly updates and providing thoughts and feedback that I've taken to, and using some of those recommendations, it's opened up new finance to us in ways that I hadn't considered before. So working with, go ahead.
Because is there anything that you've kind of come to understand about like their motivation for, like, you know, especially people who are outside the state, as to kind of why they're investing in you?
Well, I think we offered a pretty darn good investment as part of it. I don't think what we offered at the time was much higher than what you could get with a CD or a comparable bond. So we had an 18-month maturity period to the bond that we offered at 8%. And that was back in 2024 with different interest rates, different times. But we intentionally offered a favorable interest on the bond, because we didn't know if this would work, but it's still cheaper than working with institutional capital at times. So we'll see how our next raise goes. We're working to have our second offering go live in March. And we are offering an incentive for existing investors to continue their investment, whether it's just their interest or it's the principal and interest that they want to roll over to the second round. But I'm excited to see that the second time we do this, it's only going to get easier and grow faster. Being a little more confident the second time around, but also being able to share the success that we've had so far.